So basically, what we're going to look at, remember I mentioned about these risk assessments are the building blocks and how the process comes together. So there we are, there's a generic risk assessment. Nationally within organisations, it's about common tasks. So if you work for a big multinational organisation, you will have to use generics, the mundane ones. Even if you work for a small organisation and you're not working for a global group, you can actually identify what your generic tasks are. And then building onto that, you have your unique tasks, and that's like maintenance staff, out of the norm type work activities, painting decorators are coming in, working at height because it's not part of the normal process. However, if you look at Sky and BT, they working at height would be a generic one because they work with ladders. But if you work with an organisation that is not part of that, when you use a ladder once a month, it becomes a task specific. So that's what makes it unique. And then underneath that is supplementary. And if you have a look, because if you look at generic and task, they're two separate blocks. But if you look at the block underneath with the supplementary, it actually stretches into the two blocks. Because the uniqueness of supplementary, you could supplement the generic at some point, and you also could supplement the task risk assessment at some point as well. And that's what makes supplementary risk assessment. Then you review that supplementary, and then you think, well, is it an isolated situation, and then it gets archived, or do we fit it into the generic because it's becoming generic, or do we fit it into the task because we didn't identify that particular risk at that particular point? So that's what makes supplementary risk assessment unique. And then underneath there's your building block, and that's why it's in red. It's very unique. Again, you're making risk decisions on site. You're making day-to-day activities and risk assessments as you go along. And that's why you need to consider, I'm making a risk decision here, but I might need to refer back to the generic risk assessment, task risk assessment, or do I need the relevant supplementary one? So that's the key thing that I need to consider on risk assessments as well. So they are your building blocks to make it right, basically. So it's not one unique risk assessment, as everybody thinks. So this is what it's about. The aim is to increase consistency and making it flow naturally with individuals. Everybody, again, make more excuses why not to do it. Again, removing duplication. And this is what I find that I'm trying to govern at the moment, where each department are doing their own unique risk assessments. And I'll give you an example. A particular organisation got 36 depots. And when you look at their risk assessment on the depots, actually there's 56. So it doesn't marry. So they've duplicated some of the risk assessments. Now I'm trying to create, first of all, a generic risk assessment first, based on what is the mundane aspects within there. And underneath that, then, what's the variance of the tasks for the variances of each of those depots. And then send it to the relevant depots and say, no, underneath, supplement it under that one document. And that's how it works. Then it makes full use of the employee competence as well. So it's building up the confidence, because again, fear to complete it. If something goes wrong, I'm going to be held accountable. Remember I mentioned earlier, I'll go out and do a risk assessment. I may have missed something. Are they going to get reprimanded for it? Not unless it really stands out in front of me. It's one of those things where I say, well, I missed that. I made a mistake. Did I do it with intent? No, I didn't. Yeah, slap wrist, lesson learnt. Now it's on the radar, and then we can work with it. Again, focus on the site-specific problems. Worrying about everything is not constructive. I do worry when I write risk assessments. Sometimes I think, well, because it is quite subjective, and sometimes I've put the risk quite high, and I've had discussions with the health and safety executive in the past and say, well, why have you put it high where I would have anticipated it as a medium? And sometimes if I'm unsure, what I'll always do is actually put it as a high risk, review it in either 3 months or 6 months, consult with individuals until I got that comfort blanket myself that I think, yeah, it's right, it's a medium risk. I'd rather be a little bit overcautious sometimes at the start, and not that I risk everything, but if I'm unsure, I need to investigate a little bit more. And that's the purpose sometimes where I look at those particular risk profiles. And again, it links strongly into process management. As you're aware, process management, and I've been talking a long time about this, and finally, I've had a lot of throwbacks throughout my career about process safety management as well. And behold, the ISO 45001 it's now linked very much to process safety. And behold, the health and safety executive as well, are buying into it as well. And also, the NEBOSH qualification, have implemented a NEBOSH qualification for process safety management. And I've been talking about this for a long time. Frustratingly, now it's come into it, but process is about these blocks and how they interlink jigsaw pieces. Process is about looking at the framework, what's happening into the middle section, and how we put these pieces together and how they interlink. And everybody used to say process is all about gas industry, petrochemical industry. Process is everywhere. And if you spend that time, you can actually see that. So again, within your master syllabus, look into process risk management assessments as well, and see the variances of all those different things as well, like the bow tie effect and things like that, all link into it, and how you can relate it into your organisation, or even how you can implement it into your organisation as well. So finally, that link, I'm really happy with that outcome as well.